Good evening and welcome to the Limerick Planning Board meeting for December 4th, 2024. We can stand for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So tonight we have Attorney Grady Burns here, representing the board to help us get through this, hopefully get through this CIA salvage court remand. So I guess I'll let you have the floor, Grady. And
Sure. So the board will recall that we had a preliminary meeting on this matter last month, and at that meeting, it was we charted out a game plan as to how we were going to address the court's order on remand. As a reminder, the court remanded this back to the board for additional findings of fact. And at the previous meeting, it was determined by the board that the way that we would proceed would be to have the current board review the record that was produced by the planning board as part of its initial proceedings back in 2023, and to essentially go back and create a new set of findings of fact based on this board's review of that record, to ensure that the any future court reviewing that decision is able to understand how the board arrived at its decision. So as an initial matter, Mr. Chair, with your indulgence, there are a few items I just want to make sure that we note in the record. The first is I would just ask if the chair or the board can determine whether or not they have a quorum tonight.
we do have a quorum.
All right. And additionally, so this matter comes before the board, and I just wanted to determine in the record that proper notice was given for this meeting, if the board can inquire as to the notice that went out.
I believe that Mr. Gerard and Mr. Farron were both present at that last meeting where we discussed it. We set the date, and we have it on our normally advertised meeting date, so I think we should be all set with that.
And it appears that both Mr. Gerard and Mr. Farron are here tonight, as well as Attorney Ordway, who I believe represents Mr. Gerard. Is that correct, Attorney Ordway? Thank you. Next, I would ask the chair to determine whether or not any member of this board needs to disclose any potential conflict of interest related to this application. And if the board has any question about what might constitute a conflict of interest, I'm happy to talk through that, but I'd like to get that into the record as well.
The other thing I want to state is that my uncle does own an abutting property. I have no financial interest in it, so I don't believe that don't believe I actually have a conflict of interest.
Do you believe that you can evaluate this case in an unbiased manner?
I believe so.
Okay. Is there anything else that any member would like to disclose? Okay. All right. Because this is usually I'll ask the board to go through and look at determine that the applicant has sufficient standing before you. This is a kind of procedurally a little funky because we've been ordered by the court to take this up. I would just note that this is a remand of a prior application that was before the board, and the review is based on that prior application that was submitted to this board. All right, so as we, sorry for doing a lot of the talking at this point. Hopefully I will be doing less soon. As we discussed at the prior meeting, as an initial matter, because some members of this current board were not part of the board back in 2023 when this original decision was rendered, the first step is to ensure that every member of the board who is reviewing this current application and deliberating on this question has had sufficient opportunity to review the prior record and familiarize yourselves with the proceedings that occurred so that you are comfortable in participating in those deliberations today. So there's two pieces of this. One is ensuring that each of you have had a chance to familiarize yourselves with the record. I would also recommend that given that this is a somewhat complex matter, I want to ensure that there's clarity as to what documents the board is reviewing to ensure that, again, there's clarity about kind of the universe of things that this board is looking at as you make your new findings. So I'll stop there, Mr. Chair, if you'd like to proceed.
Okay, so.
You need to speak into the microphone, we can't hear you.
Okay. So I'm not sure what you're looking for. I believe that I certainly have reviewed everything. I kind of went back through and looked over some of the tapes, the videos, just to remember, just so I remembered it correctly. So I'm confident that I have.
I was not on the board at the time, so I've reviewed the public hearing and the meetings after that, along with the ones in June and August. And then I was on the board technically for the final approval of the one from this year, and I think I may have recused myself from the vote because I was not part of the original.
Have you had any opportunity to review the paper record that you have in front of you today?
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah, I was on the board at the time, and I've reviewed, rewatched some of the meetings, and I've reviewed the record in front of me, so.
okay. And so for the board, I would point out that you have a copy of a binder here that was prepared for you by your code enforcement officer, Stan Hackett. And Stan, I would just ask if you could speak to what documents the board has in their packet. I'm also noting that that packet has also been distributed to Mr. Farrand and Mr. Gerard as well. But CEO Hackett, if we could just hear from you about what we have in front of us today.
So what is in the packet that you received tonight? Dr. Ferran didn't get a copy of a short one, but I will get him a copy right away. What is in there, you'll see the notice of decision that was issued in 2022 starts the beginning page. And then after that will be the minutes of the planning board by chronological date. And in some cases, because of the content of the minutes, I added the documents that it was referencing. Beyond the section where the planning board minutes are is the actual response or a copy of the response of the planning board to the appeals board when Dr. Ferran made his appeal to the ZBA. So that is what's there.
Do any of the members of the board have any questions about the the paper record that was produced for your review?
Yeah, I do. There are some scans of some photographs in here that didn't come through super clearly. Is there a way we could get the originals of those in here just for the discussion tonight?
I have,
The February ones, you do? Okay, good.
I
Yep,
have them right here.
great,
so-
that was it. And that is not, none of those pictures are from the site walk that we had no documentation of, correct?
In my file, no.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Quite a lot of them. Not sure which of those,
I think,
which, but,
yeah, that's the exact ones I was talking about.
okay. So most of these were, a lot of these were produced during for the site walk, and then some of them were produced by the applicant, so we have lots of different, photographs.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry,
Well, the ones in the record are dated February, so that's the ones we can speak to tonight. Or there's some June, okay.
I think that, I don't know if you want, I've got quite a lot of different ones here.
We want to make sure that whatever is being produced here is something that was part of the record below. So Stan, if you have copies of the photographs that you have produced here, okay, if we can get some better resolution versions of those to review. I want to make sure that we are looking at, Mr. Chair, I want to make sure we're all looking at the same thing here,
Okay.
okay?
Yep.
So that we're all referring to one document. I know, again, some members of the board who were on the board previously, you may have your own copies of these records, but in order to make sure that, again, we are all looking at the same thing, and that everyone, including the members of the public here, all have access to what the board is reviewing, I want to make sure that we're all limiting ourselves to the records that are contained in this binder, okay? So if there are questions about what's contained in this binder, we can talk through that. If it appears that, if there's any question about what has been produced, or if someone believes something may be missing from the record, we can discuss that. But again, we want to make sure that it is clear moving forward what precisely you are reviewing tonight, so that anyone looking at this later knows what you're looking at. Does that make sense?
So, it's hard to go through each of these photographs that we saw at the public hearing. I think most of them were submitted. I'm not sure that all of them are in this record. I would say most of these ones that I have here were either produced for that public hearing, were given to us along the way prior to that date. So I would think that all of these photos that I have should be admitted as part of the record. So, I think I have 20 photos or something like that, so.
There's 4 here from June.
It's 4 from June, you said?
Mr. Chair, were those records, as far as those photos, as far as you know, were those produced and viewed by the board as?
This is the exact photo he has, so just, this is what it looks like, and that's the color actual photo. So
Okay.
I'd be surprised if most of them are the
All of
same.
these photos were,
This is the record that was given to CIA and the Board of Appeals, and it includes the photos.
Okay. Is that what this is, Stan?
That's more than what's in there.
This is more than what's in here?
But the pictures are clear.
Okay.
Yeah, but the reason why these pictures are not clear is because if I did those on my printer in color, it would have cost me about $5,000. So I sent them to the big printer and
This
it
is
will
Yeah.
not be
not actually,
colored.
it's.
Yep, so,
So
yeah,
that's this one.
With your indulgence, I would ask the parties how they may wish to proceed in terms of our determination of the proper record before us. It might be worth hearing from the parties if they have any views on how they, Mr. Chair.
yep, I'm sorry.
It may be worthwhile to ask the parties how they may wish to proceed in light of, our determination of what the proper record before us is, if they have any views as to what is properly before you.
Can I see what that is in those photos there, so we can?
I would, at the risk of, so I don't have that in front of me anymore, but
You just have that one, the one with all the
So,
photos?
I
That's
would-
the one that was given to the appeals board.
So I just want to make sure, again, that we're not unintentionally introducing materials that are not part of the proper record here. So everything that you are looking at in the folder that Stan gave you, it may be more than what is there, but it should be, I'm understanding, everything that is in that file should be in this. Okay.
So let me just make sure I understand. The issue is this binder here is what the court reviewed.
So it is, potentially. We're not worried necessarily what the court reviewed. What we're worried about is what did the planning board review
Yeah.
in 2023?
Okay.
Right? Because the determination was made that we weren't going to reopen the record
Right.
to receive new evidence.
Yep.
So the new findings that you are issuing are based on your review of the existing record. So we want to ensure, we want to be very, very specific
Yep.
that all of the documents, all the materials that you are looking at tonight are part of that record. Okay?
So I would include this, and if there's some.
What is there is already in there, it's just, there's no color in this one.
not good. Okay.
Yeah. All right,
Okay.
that's fine.
All of these pictures are in that?
Yep.
Okay. And I
Ours
think
just
all,
look like this, and
Yeah.
those were the red.
So can we provide those photographs that you are looking at to the parties here as well and ensure that those versions of the photographs are included in the record of this proceeding that we are currently having?
is it something that we could scan and send to you? Would that be acceptable?
I can make
so-
some copies very quickly while you guys are talking in color. I just can't send it from my computer to that in color.
I want to make sure that the parties have exactly what you are looking at right now.
Yep.
Okay?
Right now,
Before-
or in the,
So
can
right
come up
right
to
now.
the table
Okay,
and
so
say
because
yes.
anything that you're looking at right now is properly part of the record of this proceeding, right? They are public documents, okay?
That's the issue.
So put everything else away that's not part of the record we're looking at. And we're gonna make sure that all the parties have exactly the same documents here, okay?
don't throw anything out.
So yeah, if all of your old duplicates, if we can put them to the side to make sure that everything we're looking at is what we're all looking at. And again, I would encourage you to ask the parties if they have any concerns with the record that has been produced for your review tonight.
So, do either of you have a concern regarding the record that's produced? You don't have a copy of the record?
There's no extra copy.
Here we go.
Yeah. And I'll remind the parties that ultimately the board's deliberations here, it's a closed meeting. The record is not open. We, again, want to ensure that there is a shared understanding among everyone here as to what materials that the board is reviewing tonight. Okay, so what you are looking at in the binders you have is a record, is the copy that the board currently has. We are preparing right now better versions of the color photographs that are currently in this document so that you all have those copies as well. And then I will confirm with Stan that everything that you have is everything that they have, and that everything that you have is the entire record that was reviewed. And I apologize for being very persnickety on this issue, but it's very important that we all understand exactly what is being reviewed tonight.
That's why you're here.
So we have some minutes. Yeah, I guess we'll kind of
Yeah,
go on to
might as
those
well.
and approve those while we're waiting. Yeah, some October 16th minutes and November 13th minutes. Is there a motion on those?
I'll motion to approve the October 16th and November 13th minutes.
Moved and, is there a second?
Second that?
Okay. Any discussion on those? Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you. All right, so. So Joanne, as far as the subdivision, we signed those, right? So we're all set? Okay, that's done. Okay, good. Okay. You don't have an internal copy of that?
Sure.
There may be some overlap between this one and, between this book and that he's copying.
So he's only copying the photographs that he provided to you. So the other booklet of the, my understanding is those materials were provided to the ZBA. It sounds like there may be some additional records that were reviewed by the planning board that for some reason may not have been transmitted to the ZBA. I'm not sure why that would be the case, but
I'm not sure that's the case, but I think we submitted an adequate,
yeah,
the-
my understanding is that everything that was transmitted to the ZBA, that was the entire administrative record. And so what you are looking at should also be, should also reflect that record that was transmitted. The record also includes the recordings of the public hearings that occurred as well. Again, the members of the board, you already noted that you've reviewed those recordings as part of your review of the record as well. The recordings of the planning board's 2023 proceedings, the public hearing that occurred as part of the initial board's review, the testimony that was received in the public hearing. There is an audio-visual recording of those that is also part of the administrative record.
That has been made part of the record. The court has consistently said, I'm not going to look at videos, I want a transcript.
So this is not the court. The record is, it contains a recording of the board's prior proceedings is necessarily a part of that previous board's record for their own review. In order for this board to familiarize themselves with what evidence was received by the board in 2023, they needed to review the recording of those public hearings. So whether those need to be transcribed to a court later or provided in video format, that's not a question that this board needs to worry about. It's simply the prior proceedings, the testimony received, and the recording of that testimony is properly part of the record for their review. And those are all publicly available public recordings.
You refer to the public hearing, at least by my account, starting in June, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 meetings.
Stephanie, can you hear him? Yeah, he probably needs to go to the podium. You're gonna need to go to the podium.
So if you, just so we can pick you up on the microphone. Your 15 minutes of fame, Attorney Ordway.
Just so I'm clear.
Absolutely.
You said that the board has reviewed the video, audio of the public hearing, suggesting there was only one public hearing. And the record I've looked at is there were multiple public hearings.
Okay. So, and Mr. Chair, I would, if the board could clarify what if any videos of the prior proceedings you reviewed? Was it each of the, did you say eight proceedings?
The initial public hearing was on July 12th. There was one on August 2nd and August 16th, and then October 18th and November 15th. June what?
June 7th.
June 7th, there was a,
That was the big one.
June 7th was also
That's the one that's under big
November
review.
15th was the second public hearing.
That's the one where
a, okay.
Meryl gave the, imagine this, with the boards.
So I counted 8 meetings that you all just listed.
I believe so. It was a lot of meetings. I think they're all included in all the minutes, anything that refers to CAA salvage on, Rangy is included in the minutes are in here.
Yep.
And then those recordings are available.
That's right. And so, Attorney Ordway, all of those proceedings, and I'm going to try to be more precise with my language, so not simply the public hearing, but each of the public meetings where this application was discussed are part of this board's record for review. So to the extent that the board received evidence or information from the public that then became part of the information that the board had to weigh their decision, all of that would be properly part of the record. So my understanding, listening to the board, is that each of you have reviewed the prior meetings where this application was discussed by the planning board.
I lived it.
Does that answer your question, Attorney Ordway?
Is that affirmative? What was reviewed, was the video, audio of all of those proceedings reviewed by each of the members of the board who are here, or I'm still not clear as to what was reviewed
Okay. So,
by the
Yes, I
voting
spent
members?
like 11 hours watching all of the videos that are posted online publicly to catch up, and it looks like all the videos I watched, it looks like the transcripts of those videos are all here. I'm just checking to ensure that they're that many, but yes.
So the first public meeting on this application after the ZBA's remand was when?
Is that the June 7th one? I'm not certain on the dates.
After the 2022 remand,
That's right.
that was like the first meeting I was at, so that would have been March, our,
March 15th of 2022. So we have it. This is the zoning board of appeals. And then April has some minutes. Then there's minutes from May 18th, 2022, June 2022, June 15th, 2022, July 20th, 2022. So it looks like things are pretty well in order. Anything that had reference to this application is in here.
Yep. And so.
And it's online and available for people to look at.
It was those meetings that are currently contained in the packet. Those were the meetings that each of you reviewed as part of your review of this record, correct?
I'll reserve comments. I'm just trying to get clarification at this point.
Understood.
Merrill, did you have anything? No. So we're gonna hold pattern until we get the photos? Is that where we're at?
I
or-
think we can,
We can proceed while we're waiting for those photos. There's some initial items here to go through. Sorry, my computer disconnected.
Sorry.
So, Mr. Chair, this application that you are issuing renewed findings for I have dated as a February 23rd, 2022 application from Sean and Dennis Gerard for CIA Salvage, Inc. And the board, as part of its review, is tasked with reviewing, I believe it is 15 criteria, 16, forgive me, that are contained in Article 7 of the zoning ordinance that was effective in 2023. That is the version of the ordinance that we are reviewing tonight, because that is the ordinance that was in effect when this application initially became pending. So your job here tonight is to review, to discuss and deliberate as to each of those 16 standards, as well as the 4 standards contained in Article 6, Section G of that version of the zoning ordinance that relates specifically to automobile graveyards and junkyards, which again were standards that the previous board reviewed.
Okay.
So you have the entire record before you. The previous board made findings, and again, some of those findings refer specifically to a site walk that did not properly become part of the record. In other parts of the decision, the board made other specific references to items that are in fact in the record before you. But for each of these standards, the goal here is to have the board discuss those standards and determine whether or not, based on the record you have before you, those standards have been met. If the applicant met their burden based on the record you have before you, and to provide detailed findings supporting those determinations.
Okay. So what I'd kind of like to do is, I would like to make a motion that the previous reviewing board took into account the record and evidence and testimony in their decisions on conditions 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Also, is it section 6, Article 6, Section G5, numbers 2, 3, and 4. So those are all the ones that do not specifically reference the site walk.
So, sorry, what was your motion, Mr. Chair?
You want to do it again?
So
My motion is that there are several of these, I think, all but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of them that do not reference the site walk. I feel that the board spent, the previous board spent hours and hours and hours trying to come to a consensus with the applicant and trying to make them work. And I think that they did their due diligence on those conditions.
So what I'm hearing is that it sounds like what you're recommending is that this board adopt those previous findings based on your renewed review of the record and the previous findings, and adopt, and because you find that those findings are, you agree with those findings and conclusions as to those items, that you would like to adopt those. And as a process point, what I would encourage you to do tonight as you're deliberating, there are a few ways that boards can do this. I'm going to provide you with my recommendation because in my experience, it can make things cleaner in terms of timing after you render your kind of final decision. Having the discussion tonight, coming to a consensus, you don't need to vote or make a motion. It's really just, capturing your views as to each of these findings. Then I can write up those draft findings that you can then review and vote on all at once to adopt those specific findings. So if what I'm hearing is that based on this board's review, you have looked at those previous findings that did not reference the site walk, and that those appear, based on your review now, to be adequate, and you agree with those conclusions and findings, I can integrate those into the updated decision and reference those findings as well. So I want to make sure that I have a full accounting of each one that you are referencing here so that I can be very specific in the new draft. So I'm going to just have you very slowly tell me again which findings specifically you're looking at here.
Number 1, number 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, Go ahead.
I left my, I didn't.
And
have
then
time to-
Article 6, Section G5, numbers 2, 3, and 4.
Okay, so to repeat that, I have, it's, I believe, Art 7 is the first one, right? Okay, sorry about that. Numbers 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15.
That's correct?
And then for Article 6, numbers 2, 3, and 4.
That's correct.
Okay. So do any of the other members, so what the chair is putting forward is that his preference would be to adopt those prior findings, finding that they are sufficient, and to the extent that they don't reference anything outside of the record, that those are findings that he would like to carry forward. Do any of you, are there any pieces of that you would like to discuss with any more specificity? And you're allowed to disagree. This is an open deliberation, so it'd be helpful to hear any thoughts you might have on that.
I just want a quick second to quickly skim through these. I left my notes at home. I didn't have a chance to stop in, unfortunately. So if I could just have like a minute.
Yep.
All right, so I have no issue with 1.
Did you break Dottie's printer, Stan? Did you break Dottie's printer?
What date did we vote on the permit? I'd like to get his actual, oh, sorry, I think I just found it.
It's December,
12, 13?
trying to find that number. I don't know what's here somewhere. December 6th? Board convened on December 6th, 2023.
December 6, 2020. All right, so that was 1.
Yeah, I have the vote happening on December 6th, and then the findings were signed on the 13th.
Where's the wrong one? 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8,
Sorry?
10.
Uh,
One is a notice of decision, and one is a series of votes. One is on December.
So, Mr. Ordway, my understanding is that there were a series of votes on December 6th that were then memorialized in a written decision that was signed on December 13th. So the written decision is the one that was dated December 13th. My understanding is that the deliberation, I believe, occurred on the 6th, however.
Correct. can we sign the findings from Zach on the 13th? Okay. I got my whole room planned now. Thank you.
And also, just so I'm clear, this was on the decision at the renewal application.
No, no one's there. This was a decision that by its terms was related to the February 23rd, 2022 conditional use permit application submitted by your client. That decision notes that that in the intervening time, the town zoning ordinance required the applicants to file the current renewal application with the board. So my understanding is that, yes, this is related to the renewal application. The decision that was subject to the court's remand. Attorney Ordway, were you provided with a copy of the color photos? Okay. And Mr. Farron, you were provided a copy as well?
They packet of color photos.
Yes, that stand is provided.
I'm not acknowledging that any of those are properly in the record.
Understood. But I'm just noting that the set of photos that were just provided to the board were also provided to both of you.
All right, so I'm good with everything except for 6, 12, and 13.
Okay.
So 6, in our reasoning, in our motion, we kind of reference the site walk. So as much as I kind of agree with you, like, there was a very lengthy discussion, and I do think that there was enough deliberation that you could remove the part about the site walk. We do reference it, so I think we should revisit that and just,
Okay. The motion, so in Zach's,
Brian, I am seeing a reference in number 6 to, there was so there was a discussion of an August 2nd site visit there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
number 6. The board noted that the originals, oh, I'm sorry, I did miss that one.
You said 12 and 13.
yeah. So 12 and 13, I just want to clarify that the site walk wasn't mentioned in the findings of fact. I know that our discussions at that time centered around things we saw at the site visit, so I just want to clarify that that didn't, our decision that the condition wasn't met wasn't based around the site visit.
Okay. It might be worth revisiting to clarify.
Okay.
But everything else I'm good with.
Do you mind telling me again what your reasoning was? Because I can't remember. I
So
didn't-
12 and 13, it's the erosion control and the runoff. I just recall you and I having very lengthy discussions about things we saw at the site walk, so I just want to revisit that and make sure that we didn't reference anything in the findings of fact that mentioned the site walk. And if we don't, I'm good with it, we can move on, but I do think the three of us here should review the findings of fact now, make sure we don't reference the site walk, and then I'm good with your motion.
Okay. So in the findings, it says the board considered the record and testimony presented throughout to the public hearing process, including the July 12th, 2023 testimony of the code enforcement officer, that the slope of the property and the absence of riprap along the property's borders meant that there was a likelihood of erosion and that adequate control was not present. The board acknowledged competing testimony from the applicant's stormwater expert, Stillwater Environmental Engineering, that there were no significant erosion concerns on the property. The board, however, did not find this evidence persuasive and rather credited the CEO's testimony. According to the board, voted 4-0 and approved that standard. Number 12 was not satisfied, so I don't know how you,
No, so that's good. So I guess my question to you is, so does that is the record we're reviewing? So even though in the meeting minutes, we refer to a site walk that wasn't well documented, that doesn't necessarily matter?
So I think your adoption of these findings, what I take that to mean is the items
Yep.
of the record that are called out as supporting those positions.
Yep.
You are saying tonight that you agree that those, that you're crediting those pieces of evidence the same way that the board in 2023
Yep.
credited that evidence.
Okay.
Now, there may be some instances here where the board incorrectly or improperly, or according to the court, shouldn't have credited a site walk that occurred. So by saying that you agree with the board's crediting of certain evidence in this prior decision, it doesn't mean that you're crediting every piece of what that board did. You're just agreeing with the pieces that you agree with right now.
Okay.
So if there are pieces, so if you know, for example, if based on your current review of the CEO's testimony on these issues back in 2023, if you agree now
Yep.
that those are that you credit them in the same way, then certainly that's part of the record.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to make sure. I wanted to make sure that in our recent review of the record, that mentions of the site walk is not going to get us back into this whole like repetitive process.
So I would avoid any I would avoid relying on any evidence
Yeah.
that it in turn is relying on things that may have happened outside of a public meeting.
Okay.
So if that site walk wasn't a public meeting, then we shouldn't be looking at that or kind of the evidence that grew out of that.
All right, so I'm good with 12 then.
so the other one is 6, is that correct?
Let's just take a quick look at 13, and then I think I'm good.
That is 13. The board determined, for all the reasons cited in this discussion concerning approval standard of number 6, that the approval standard number 13 was no longer satisfied by the SWP plan. The board voted 4-0 to conditionally approve this standard through its imposition of the same condition approval as found in approval standard number 6. So basically, we wanted a updated stormwater plan.
Yeah. But we're mentioning number 6 where we mentioned the site walk, so I think we just got to revisit both of those.
Okay. Okay. Number 13.
So it sounds like there might be consensus to adopt the evidence and findings as to numbers 1, 3, 4, 5, 8, 10, 11, 12, 14, and 15 And then Article 6, numbers 2, 3, and 4.
Yes.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
So do you want us to motion and second and all
Nope.
that, or are you gonna draw
No.
it up and then come?
No need for a motion right now. We're just, I'm just trying to get a sense of
Okay.
the board and what you're relying on here.
Okay. So then, moving on to condition number 2, I would like to strike, the board noted that these comments were, it doesn't sound quite right, but this is the way it's written. The board noted that these comments were to the board members made by the abutters during the site walk. So I would like to strike that and replace with, the board also considered the August 14th, 2023 notice of violation.
And do we have a copy of that NOV in
We do.
the binder? Okay.
August 14th, you said?
August 14th, 2023 notice of violation.
And I apologize for this not being paginated, but if you could try to point me in the general direction of where in the binder you are looking.
It's chronological at
Okay.
least, so.
So you said August 2023?
Yep. Here's 16.
To the minutes from the 16th, so.
I see August 2nd, and then it jumps to August.
August 16th, yeah.
16th, so I don't see
I know I
those.
saw it,
August
some,
14th notice of violation.
Okay, no, if you keep going, I have August 14th, 2023, notice of violation of conditional use. So it comes after,
I see.
after those set of events.
Two will not have a detrimental effect on the use and peaceful enjoyment of adjacent property. There have been ongoing complaints of traffic and dust. Yeah, and then I believe during the public meeting, there were complaints from the abutters, not just at, sorry, just, I believe at the public meeting, there were complaints from the abutters
that's
as well,
correct.
so.
So you're talking about the public hearing? Okay. And can you remind me of the date of that public hearing? I know this is starting to sound like a quiz.
No,
But-
it's all right.
June 7th is when Mayor Murphy
Oh, is it,
and he's in the butter.
was that the July 12th, or was it June 7th? I'm not certain of that.
Maybe if you could just describe the nature of the complaints you recall.
His name was Charlie, something came up and
Ed
complained of.
Schultz.
Yes.
Ed Schultz was the.
Complained of trucks and dust, as well as Mr. Frand has complained on numerous occasions at meetings. But I'm good with what Aaron suggested here, referencing the notice of violation, which clearly references condition 2 not being met.
It says, "The board considered the record and testimony presented and throughout the public hearing process," so that covers the testimony of.
Yeah.
And noted that the abutters to the property, including Merrill Farren, have complained about the noise, vibrations, fumes, odor, that's number 2. And on their properties as a result of the operation of the junkyard and automobile graveyard.
Are there any other pieces of the record that you've reviewed that that speak to how you're thinking about this this standard. And just to make sure that we're all on the same page, the standard here is will not have a significant detrimental effect on the use and peaceful enjoyment of adjacent or nearby property as a result of noise, vibrations, fumes, odor, dust, light, glare, or other cause. And I'm not saying that there needs to be, I'm just asking if there's anything else that you reviewed that is shaping how you're thinking about this standard.
Just give me a second to try and find the one I'm thinking of, but I think that's probably it.
I think we spent a lot of time talking about buffers and how they would mitigate that, those,
Yeah, I
those
mean,
effects,
that's
so-
all in
what's in the.
the record, yeah.
It's in the record and it's also in the, notice of violation, so.
Okay, any other pieces on standard number 2 before you move on?
Yeah, I think it is the June 7th, 2023 public hearing where there was a lengthy discussion from abutters.
Do you recall those discussions being specifically related to any of the items, dust, odor, fumes?
Was that the one that Ed was at?
So the name is Ed Schultz. So the record is closed, so, sorry, forgive me.
Oh, yep, Ed Schultz was at that meeting.
Are we all set with that one?
Yep, I'm good.
So, I was just thinking of, condition number 6. It says, the board deliberated at length regarding the approval standard number 6. The board noted that the original application approval contained a condition of approval which required the applicant to adhere to the SWP plan, which is, it should be SWPP plan. And that all automobile dismantling be performed on a concrete pad. The board's August 2nd, 2023 site visit revealed that there were no significant, no natural buffers exist on the property. The vegetated areas exist sufficient for the collection of natural drainage and the cleaning of surface water. And there have been an increase in impervious non-vegetative surface area at the property since the original approval. The board determined that based on these facts, the original SWP plan was no longer sufficient to satisfy the condition. Actually, I think if we struck on the board's August 2nd, 2023 meeting, this was actually a site walk where Stan and
Yeah.
Stillwater Engineering went to the site, and they did a site visit. So there was a site visit on August 2nd, but it was Stan and Stillwater Engineering. And that report is in the record.
Do you have a date for when that report was, just like a date stamp for that report?
I think August 2nd was the date of the actual report.
Okay.
So, and that, I'm confident that's in the record, I saw it, so.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is the information that is the kind of facts actually contained in that narrative are born, they are actually supported by the report of the walk that Stan did with Stillwater.
That's correct.
And that report is contained in the record.
I think it's basically was a typo that, and we missed it when we did it. It was Stan's site walk, and that's why it comes out that there was a site walk on August 2nd, which actually was Stan and Stillwater going to the site and doing a site visit.
Oh,
Sorry,
go ahead.
No, you can finish yours.
It's all you.
But there was also a report from Stillwater and the report's dated July 12th, 2023, where in their report, they mentioned that the fill slope in the southwestern corner of the site should be stabilized per recommendations in this report, given the limited erosion and significant vegetative buffer surrounding the site, the lack of nearby surface waters, and north storm water pollution issues were identified. So they're kind of identifying that it should be stable, like the slope should be stabilized to limit erosion.
And then there was a subsequent report by Stan based on, or did Stan report to the
I'm not
board?
sure, I think Stan did a report to the board at a meeting. I'm not sure if you actually produced an actual report other than the report that Stillwater provided us.
And Joanne has a record of it in our meeting minutes. I did, and I provided what
So,
was up to the Stillwater.
so it sounds like Stan provided a report at the public hearing.
I believe, no, he provided a report at the meeing, at one of the meetings in the record that,
That occurred after this site walk.
that's correct.
Okay, so if I go back and look at those transcripts, I'll,
I would assume so.
Yep.
August 16th shows the deliberation between Sean saying what Stillwater recommended and then Aaron saying what the engineering report says versus what Stan had at the
Okay.
sidewalk.
So that was August 16th was when Stan came and reported and the guy from Stillwater came.
what I'm hearing is that you're inclined to credit the testimony that you reviewed from the CEO in light of that site walk that he did.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
If we're ready, whenever you're ready, we'll move on to the next one. Number 7, there was an error in how that was written. It said the fire chief testimony, and it should say the November 2nd, 2023 letter from the fire chief.
And we have a copy of that letter as well.
This November, so it should be towards the end of the packet.
Oh, that was after the back was cleaned up. Okay.
After the what?
Never mind.
Stan, do you know if Vinnie's report is in here? Do you know if Vinnie's report is in here? The, towards the end?
It's the zoning appeals.
I have it November 2nd, 2023. I'm sure it's in that. Joanne's got it.
You have this.
Great.
Can you,
The access for fire apparatus between the stored materials located at 41 East Limerick does meet the requirements the fire department requested as part of their current conditional use permit.
that's what it looks like? Gmail? I thought I saw something different than that. Is there some,
So this is what I'm seeing.
should be a fire chief inspection report.
That's different than the one I've got here too.
I've got a different one than that, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, this is what I recall because there was access issues and they were removed, which is why the condition was met.
Okay.
Says we are submitting an email from the fire chief dated November 2nd confirming we meet the requirements.
You look, review the records that are in the binder you have.
So if that's not in there, then that, you're okay with that?
We just gotta reference the email and just say that we're good with that.
Rather than have you try to find the dupe copy.
Okay. So the email was what date?
November 2nd, right?
Oh, s- Oh, so it was the November 2nd letter, so.
Yeah, because that was the email from Vinnie saying that he removed the wood piles from behind the back, so there was adequate access for the fire department
Okay,
if there was an issue.
all right, so I have the right date, I thought I had a different
There's no report, it's just email.
report, but, okay. Okay, so that one's all set, I would think, it's just basically just saying that it wasn't his testimony because I don't believe he came to the board, he sent an email to us, so. All right,
Anything else to add on number 7? Seems like that covers it pretty effectively.
okay, number 9. I would like to strike obtained during the site walk. And replace with photos, testimony, and correspondence during the public hearing. And that's makes provisions for on-site landscaping, which provide for adequate protection of neighboring properties and detrimental features.
So if I could just have you tease that out a little bit more. So in terms of the photos, so what I'm hearing you say is that the narrative here is captured by these components. So the photos, testimony, and correspondence that you received as part of the public hearing process.
And then also all the other stuff that was listed in the original decision. So that was the board considered the record testimony presented throughout the public hearing process, including July 12th testimony of the code enforcement officer, that trees have been removed on the board of the property. The board noted that there was significant change in the road facing vegetation on the property. The board also deliberated regarding whether to impose a condition of approval requiring applicants to maintain a 15-foot vegetative buffer and require the planting of trees no shorter than 4.5 feet in height at the time of planting, at 10 or 15 feet in height upon maturity. Ultimately, however, the board, based upon the CEO's testimony and it says in the information included in the sidewalk, what I want to include, and the photos, testimony, and correspondence during the public hearing, the board at that time voted 3-1 that the approval standard number 9 was not satisfied.
Okay, so Mr. Chair, what I'm hearing you say is that so setting aside the reference to the site walk, the other factors that the board listed in this prior decision, you continue to view as creditable evidence, including the code enforcement officer's testimony, I believe. Now, you're referencing here photos, testimony, and correspondence during the public hearing. I would just like to hear a little bit more about what photos and what testimony you're looking at right now that speak to those items.
Yeah, so we have photos in front of us here where, I can't remember, is this the south slope?
That would be the western slope.
Western slope.
And these photos were provided by the code enforcement officer, correct?
I think these might have been provided by the applicant or the code enforcement officer, one of the two.
Either way, they were provided at a public meeting.
And there goes my laptop.
Yep. So, but yes, it shows that it was a steep slope. There was a very lengthy deliberation across several meetings where it was discussed that the slope went right up to the property boundary, and there was no vegetative buffer, and it's well documented in the photos here. I think these are photos, I think, from the applicant, maybe showing the construction of a fence. But either way, they were provided at a public meeting.
And then I think there's some others that show the progression of the development, so that change, the significant change to the road facing vegetation of the property.
Yeah, if we could find those. I think the point here is like we should try and find them and like
Find the
point to them
exact
so
one.
that, yeah,
We need to have like Exhibit A and,
right.
Treat me like I am a 5-year-old who has never seen any of this before, and be specific. But exactly what you're saying, Brian, is helpful. So, I know that each of you have reviewed these now a few times, but speaking, just teasing out again, kind of, what photos you're looking at and why they speak to this issue for you is exactly what I'm trying to get from you right now.
I believe isn't it the satellite photos that were provided at the public hearing or one of the subsequent meetings?
there's some aerial images there's some satellite images.
Yeah.
I think they all show something that,
But either way, I think the point is that there is a record of photo documentation showing that there was modifications to the slope with no vegetative buffer going right up to the boundary. There was a survey that was provided showing that slope going right up to the property boundary that's in the record, as well as the code enforcement officer's testimony at public meetings as well.
and that's all, I think that's also one of the ones from the notice of violation.
Oh, yeah, which one? That was the August 2nd. I should have put a sticky on that.
Condition 9, 50-foot buffer, 60-foot buffer.
Is that before or after all the pictures?
It's after, I believe it's maybe about 10 pages from the back. And then it says 6, 9, and 12 on the back section,
Yep.
so
What was the date of that again?
that is August 14th.
Oh, here we go. Yes, the letter does, the notice of violation letter does reference condition 6 and the Stillwater report from 2023. All right, I'm content with that one unless the two of you have anything else you want to discuss.
I don't think so. Do you need any more for that? Got what you need?
So I mean, my role here is to hear from you about what you're relying on.
I
And
just want to make sure you get whatever you need to write.
now I'm taking copious handwritten notes because my battery died and I apparently didn't pack my charger. So fortunately, again, this is being recorded, so I'll be able to review everything you're saying later. Just make sure you're speaking very loudly, very clearly, and very slowly into the microphone for me.
So number 13 was one that we didn't,
Yeah, I mean, we referenced number 6 before, which was the Stillwater report.
so I think it's the same as number 6. The
Right.
same criteria that we use for number 6. It's, and the information that the other board used, I think is,
So everything you just cited that speaks to your conclusion, kind of where you're going with number 6, you're saying that in turn informs how you are concluding number 13 as well.
And also the notice of, the August 14th notice of violation letter also references it. I would just, for your reference, I think we should just include, I mean, this notice of violation letter was this weighed heavily in many of the decisions I made previously, and then in my review, it also, it was a big determining factor then, and it is a big determining factor now. So I think we should be including this in all of the conditions that are referenced in this letter. So that would be condition 9, condition 2, condition 6, 12, and 13.
Yeah, to the extent that the previous findings don't reflect
Yeah.
that, given that, again, you today are saying that is something that you are crediting in your own findings today, I will include that in my draft.
Yep.
if we want to move on to 16. I'd like to strike as obtained during their August 2nd, 2023 site walk. And so this was referring to the planning board doing a site walk on August 2nd. And replace it with the board considered the record and the testimony, including the photos presented.
That was a sidewalk only between Stan and,
I'm sorry.
that was the sidewalk that was only Stan
Oh,
and
that
Stillwater.
August 2nd was only Stan and Stillwater. It really had nothing to do with
Right.
this condition, which is scenic vistas, so. And then the record pretty much said the board considered the record and testimony presented to it throughout the public hearing process, including the July 12th testimony of the code enforcement officer that the trees had been removed from the border of the property. The board also considered the views of the property from the abutter's perspective. And this is, as obtained during the sidewalk, so I would move to strike that. And concluded that the CEO's testimony regarding the removal of the trees had an adverse impact on the abutters' significant scenic vistas. According to the board, they voted 3-0-1. There was an abstention. I think that might have been me, but I can't quite remember, but I think it might have been me.
Yeah, it was.
I said you'd never win on this one, but
So so what I'm hearing you say here is that the testimony you heard from Stan relating to you his observations from his walk of the site with Stillwater.
Not as walk of the site with Stillwater. I think it was, well, I guess, I don't know when it was that he walked it and he saw her. I don't know if it was when he went with the fire chief or the numerous site visits that he did.
But he would have reported back to you.
He reported back to us, and
Do you have any recollection, based on your review of the record, of when in the process Stan spoke to those conditions?
do not.
While he's looking that up, for me, it was the testimony of the abutters at the June 7th public hearing, as well as the,
It actually says it, July 12th, testimony of the code enforcement officer.
yeah, and that testimony where the trees were removed from the front of the property.
And what was it about the testimony of the abutters from the June 7th public hearing that you find relevant to this standard?
I think it was that the condition, do you have the book, the blue book? I didn't have a chance to get, I don't want to reference this, I want to read the actual condition. Thanks. No, I don't think it did.
So will not have an adverse impact on significant scenic vistas or significant wildlife habitat, which could be avoided by a reasonable modification of the plan.
Yeah, is that the exact wording? I just want to make sure that's.
Exact wording, I believe.
Yeah, so it was the lack of privacy to neighbors. It was that point there, and the removals of berms and trees being removed from the borders of the properties. That was referenced by abutters at the June 7th meeting, and then obviously from the testimony from Stan of trees being removed from the front of the property.
I think it was, I'm not sure if there was some other testimony. I think it might have been Merrill saying that from the cemetery, that there was, you could see quite a lot of that development there, and that was,
Would that have been at the June 7th?
that would have been, I believe so.
All right, well, let's try and find it.
So you're saying that you was saying that you could see the property from the cemetery?
Yeah, it's like he was referring to the scenic vista, how it impeded, how it was a detriment to the scenic vista. But I think we should make sure we find it.
My next questions now. This is great.
Yeah.
So, June 7th is the date, right? This must be June 7th, because it's about,
So, oh gosh. I gotta make sure. I
There's
get
a significant discussion about the view and all that stuff there, so I don't know what you wanna do with that.
Are you looking at the transcript?
Yeah.
From which day, June 7th? And it's, is it Mr. Farron's testimony that you're looking at right now?
Yes.
Okay. So it sounds like, so what you previously said that you were looking at, that you were crediting here was some of the statements that you heard specifically from Mr. Farron regarding the impact on the scenic vista, including from the cemetery, as part of his June 7th testimony. So that's what you're looking at right now, and you're saying that that's correct.
But also the code enforcement officer's report or testimony about the removal of the trees.
So it sounds like your view here is that based on the record that you have in front of you, you would concur that that standard was not met.
Yep.
Okay. Any other pieces of the record that inform your view on item 16 here? And who said planning board meetings made bad television? Am I right, guys?
I think basically the information that was in the original decision and then including the other things that Brian added, I think those are adequate.
Okay.
So I think that only leaves one left. I think is
Art 6, sub 1.
sub 1, yeah. So, that one is, so I would recommend that we strike, including their site walk on August 2nd, 2023. So it says, "The board considered the record and testimony presented to it throughout the public hearing process and determined no structure or equipment was located within 50 feet of the property lines or within 200 feet of any dwelling. Accordingly, the board deliberated and voted 4-0 that this standard number 1 remains satisfied."
So, are there any specific items of the testimony that you reviewed from the public hearing that you recall now that speak to this standard?
I think I included that, including the testimony of the CEO, and I don't know the exact date of when he would have talked to us about it, but I know we had lengthy discussions many different times throughout the process that the vehicles, trailers, everything needed to be 50 feet from the property line.
Yeah.
I mean, that probably happened at every meeting for the 10, 12 meetings, whatever you say we had.
I think it was either at this meeting or one of the meetings right before this where we had a lengthy discussion about, is a fence a structure? Ultimately, this condition was met. So I feel like the record is sufficient to support it as long as we remove the reference to the site walk. So.
Right.
So based on your review of the record before you tonight, you have no evidence, you've located no evidence that supports that would support a finding that there was structure or equipment that are located within 50 feet of the property line.
Again?
Sorry, I didn't realize I had the only copy.
No, I think I actually have them. Sorry, I stuffed mine in my folder.
So it sounds like there is a fence along the line, but the view of the board is that the fence does not qualify as a structure for the purposes of your review.
The fence was not present when we deliberated.
Well, it was on one side.
No. There was, I don't believe it was there. I don't know when the fence was actually built. There was posts. You can see there are posts.
Oh, right. Okay, all right, yep.
So the fence posts then, is what we're
Fence
talking about.
posts, no
Yeah.
fence.
But to
Either
the,
way, condition, at the time, the condition was met, and it was mostly based on evidence from the testimony of Stan at the time, and that is documented in minutes from the meetings leading up to that, so it's in the record.
okay. Any other items that, in the record that you see that affect how you're thinking about whether or not the standard is met or not met? Okay. And so the board would concur that based on the record that you're reviewing now, your view is that that standard is satisfied based on the substantial evidence that you've reviewed?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So, I'm assuming this is the stuff you're gonna do, but, so in the overview, it says the board conducted site walk, blah, 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 on, I think it says August 2nd, but, so, should we include that the CEO conducted a walkthrough, you can call it whatever, your site visit, on the August 2nd?
So what,
Or is that just in the record and?
so what I, so the, kind of procedurally what, let me back up one step and then I'll answer the specific question you're asking. So the deliberation that you've all just gone through has provided me with, I think, sufficient context to prepare a draft decision for you all to review, review, revise, change. You can throw it out, you can write your own, you can do whatever you want with it. But ultimately, what I would recommend you do at the end of tonight is to make a motion essentially to authorize me to provide a draft opinion based, a draft decision based on the feedback that you've just provided me. What I will do at that point is I will integrate the information that you've just provided to create a set of draft findings. The overview, the front matter of that decision will reference the process that you are going through right now, not the process that the board may have gone through in 2023. So what I will be specifically calling out are the record information that is before you right now, the pieces that you reviewed as part of this review, which would necessarily include any testimony that Stan provided back in 2023 as part of what you've just reviewed. So that part of the draft decision won't be speaking to anything in 2023. It'll be speaking to what you are all doing right now.
Okay.
Excuse me. So that'll look different, but what it will do is it will provide a reflection of the process, basically from last month to now, what you've decided to do, how we went about it, and what record you all looked at to inform your decision here tonight, or just the decision that you are going to be ultimately signing and voting on.
Okay. All right, so I'd like to make a motion that we authorize Grady to write a draft set of findings for us.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that? All in favor? Okay, unanimous?
All right, I am so authorized. So, excuse me. My understanding is that your next meeting is the third Wednesday of this month?
Yes.
Is that correct?
December 17th, 18th? 18th? December 18th. We'll make
Okay.
Christmas cookies and have a Christmas party.
So there is some possibility that I may be double booked to attend. However, what I would be providing the draft in advance of that meeting for you to review. My preference would be for me or one of my colleagues to at least be on tap, even if it's by phone, just in case you have any questions.
Okay.
But I may have a potential conflict, but if the board's hope is to vote at the next meeting, I can work to provide you with a draft in advance of that meeting. Otherwise, it looks like it would have to be the subsequent meeting in January. But based on what you provided me here, I'm confident that I can work up a draft for you to review for your next meeting.
So if you submitted a draft to us, should we have questions and not be able to sign it at our next meeting, we could have you come in January? Would that be okay?
That's right. So the board, I mean, so you should not make your final decision until you are fully confident in what you're providing here. So my expectation is that I'll be on hand. In the event that I'm not, I'll know in advance whether or not that'll be the case. But at the very least, I'll have a draft that you can review. If you have changes to that draft, and again, what I'd be providing you is just that, it's a draft. It's my understanding of what you have provided. But ultimately, you are the ones who will be voting, signing. Ultimately, it's you're adopting those words. So it's for you to review it, determine whether or not it reflects accurately your views, and to change it, vote on it how you see fit. Excuse me. Ideally, I would be there to, in real time, if you had edits, I could work them up, send them to Stan. We could print out a new version and just have you sign it that night. But given that you've gone through, I think 99.9% of the legwork tonight, my expectation would be that hopefully the draft you get will be pretty darn close to what you've articulated tonight.
All right. So are you guys all set with that if we plan on signing it at our next meeting unless we have questions or problems, and then we'll have Grady come to our January meeting?
Yeah. So technically, you're still in deliberation, right? So until you review, adopt, and vote, that's kind of the window we're in right now. The record, again, is closed. There's no public hearing in this. So the information that you've had is the information that we're relying on. So I would discourage, as a general rule, it often goes without saying, but my job to say the things that should go without saying. I would discourage you from discussing this case outside of any planning board meeting, or reviewing anything that's not inside the record. Again, because you've already provided me with the fodder I need to draft the decision, we have all of that in front of us, and we can, and once you have that in front of you to review, we can go from there.
All right, good. Thank you. Okay. Are we all set with closing the meeting? You okay with that?
Yeah, I'll motion to adjourn the meeting? Yeah.
Okay, second. Our next meeting is December 18th, and thank you and have a good night. Oh, all in favor? Thank you.